Tapping in.
Are we live?
I'm hurt, bruh.
Double bruh episode. That should have been the episode. Bruh. Full stop. Bruh.
I'm wounded, bruh. My pockets, man. My pockets. Listen, and I was thinking about copping the Jeep, you know what I'm saying? Pop them doors off right on Lake Shore, you know what I'm saying? South Shore, Stony Island, wilding with it. No, can't have no Jeep. Economic. I'm about to get a smart car. It's ridiculous out here, man. These gas prices is nuts, man. It's nuts.
So over time, since the pandemic has happened, we've all woken up to different realities of sorts, right? So much has changed over time. But one of the things that's sharply becoming ridiculous is these gas prices. It is absolutely ridiculous how expensive petrol is. I'm fortunate right now that I'm relying on public transport. So quite frankly, I don't feel the pinch, but I hear it.
Yeah, y'all know where you hear it from. Hear it from me, because I feel the pinch. I'm pinched. This is a literal picture that y'all seeing now. Shout out to the YouTube audience of my gas. It's on E. I'm charging y'all for gas I'm charging the podcast for gas. Y'all didn't know that. I'm factored in. It's gonna be part of the background. I need that on my payroll. You ask what's on my rider? Gas money. Listen. Big facts. But like it's wild, and we thought it was necessary to bring this one to the podcast because this is one that affects all of us, man. Even if you're not paying for it at the pump, as if because you're driving, somebody in your family might. Also, it drives up the prices of public transportation, drives up the prices of Ubers. Everybody take Uber. If you don't have Uber on your phone, I don't know what to tell you. It affects a lot of us. So I think it was important to bring this and really get into like why though. At least tell me why. At least let me have some type of inkling as to why I'm paying so much for gas. Sway, why?
Now there's a host of different reasons for why gas prices are so particularly high at the moment, and there's a lot of things that you can Google in order to find us talking about that, because you know we have been exposed to that energy sector, right? And personally speaking, I've had a cool experience of being able to be in some of the inner workings of how the oil and gas industry operates and kind of why prices end up becoming like they do. Something that a mentor of mine in the oil and gas space once said. He said everything about gas. He said everything about gas is. He said no. So he said oil is about petrol. That's what he said. No, oil is politics. Oil is politics. Petrol is politics. Oil is politics. Petrol is politics, and that actually makes up pretty much how the majority of the industry goes. What's important to understand is that there are two different parts of the oil industry. There is the side that is bringing it from the ground, and then there's the side that is taking it and putting it into your cars. So between where it comes from in the ground and when it gets into your cars, there's some important things that happen in between that. A lot of it, which is politics, that cause prices to either go up or go down.
Dang. Supply, demand, politics. Okay, so politics like Russia, right? That's what they're saying. That's what they keep telling me, is that it's a war in Russia. That's why gas prices are high. How factual is that?
Now, according to the Russia gas logs that I investigate now, okay, I had to do that, but it's an important. What is important to understand though is there was a heavy reliance on gas production from Russia. So the U.S. buys about 2 million barrels a day from Russia, essentially, right? And so one of the main buyers of Russian petroleum is also Germany, which relies heavily on it. Almost over 40% of their gas actually comes from Russia. So when when we look at the impact of the war on Russia, is that obviously there was a lot of sanctions that happened, and in order for Russia to utilize its petroleum industry and its gas production as a tool, they've been squeezing essentially the amount of production that they're doing, who they're selling to. They're being sanctioned on one end, which makes it very difficult to be able to sell product. So the US in particular and the world did rely on Russian gas. So now that it is being limited, that's part of the reason why we're seeing the super sharp increase in the prices.
Mm, mm. So back to supply. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has limited the supply of gas a little bit. And if you can't tell, my voice has gotten a little bit lower because now we're moving into the segment of the show where, can we talk about where if we can't get it from Ukraine or from Russia, who else might have that gas? You know what I'm saying?
So what's been interesting is that Joe Biden now he recently mandated that the largest tap into the US oil reserve should be opened up in order for gas prices to come down. What that also means is that now they're incentivizing oil drillers in order to utilize those fields and actually start producing more oil. So it's kind of at a place now where we've taken this great step forward in what we have thought of to be a lean towards the greener side. Then you get this information with Joe Biden saying unload the reserves, flood the market, produce more.
And the U.S. has gone to expedient, like very, very long lengths to get their own, market for oil going, including investing a lot in fracking, which is, environmentally, when we're thinking about the transition to renewable energy sources, it's a whole conversation in itself. But so yeah, we've got our own domestic supply and resources, but there's a third party in this, man, that you know what I'm saying, that moves in the background and has a lot of control over what goes on, if you will.
Definitely. And I was going to be able to play some cartel music right now. So just so we can get into our Godfather-esque portion of the show when it comes to the people who are actually in power with these things, right? Now, Miles Xavier, I don't know if you know this, but I went to the OPEC summit in 2020, and was there, saw it happen live. It was an incredible experience. Actually, met His Excellency Bakindo, who is the deputy president of OPEC, Secretary General. Sorry, the Secretary General of OPEC. So I've had a bit of experience being able to see how these things work, and it's actually super interesting. But in fact, it is true that the political decisions that are made there are all pretty much like war games almost. It's like who's sitting which seat are they sitting at, having having them wait for which country is going to sit down at the table. How close are they with the president? Are they sending the minister or are they sending the deputy? How long are they in the meeting for?
Whoa. See. This is when the live ties, right? This is when you're speaking a coded language right now. You got to break it down for the people, man. This organization that operates, that dictates so much of the market, OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Tell us more.
Precisely. So essentially following the Gulf War, there was a clear indication that oil prices would run almost rampant if there wasn't a collection of the largest exporting oil countries to get together and live and almost balance out the type of oil prices that are at play. So what happens is that they get together and then they'll say, listen, these are the prices right now. This is what's happening in the market. We all need to be able to band together at a certain price, at a certain production level. And that's how we'll control the prices. What is unfair about the setup is that there are some countries, a la Saudi Arabia, is that they have an ability to be able to produce these prices produce petrol at a much lower price. So they're in a position to be able to play hardball. And if the rest of the countries are in a place where they need a decrease in demand, they might be able to hold out. And something similar is playing right now, where you're seeing a lot of these countries calling for an increase in the supply of petroleum, but they're saying they might not necessarily want to be able to take that because that might allow different entry points, more people to profit off of this. So even the people that are controlling these high prices, they also don't want them to get too high. It's all mind games.
Yeah, the cartel is pulling the strings, you know what I'm saying? And we've seen it evolve, right? When the pandemic hit, everybody stopped going to work. You know, the demand for oil and gas goes way down. That hits their pockets. Now everybody coming back. They got long memories. The cartel has a long memory. You dig me? So they not just about to let up. Everybody said, okay, we need this, we need that supply. It takes a long time for the market to ramp up and ramp down. So they had to ramp down for the pandemic, adjust to that drop in demand. And now that the demand is up again, they squeezing. They see the market. They see what's going on with Russia. They squeezing, you know? They're not allowing more oil to go into the market. Cartel move how the cartel move. And so I thought it was just important to bring OPEC to the forefront for people who are standing at the pump wondering why their gas is so high, right? Wondering what's really going on. I thought it was important to, bring into these supply and demand and these geopolitics, right? Appreciate you as our energy expert for coming in and filling in, giving us some more additional information. It's still too high though.
It's way too high. There's no explaining that does not take away how high these prices of oil, of gas actually are. It actually makes you have to reconsider the type of friends that you keep around and the type of people you want to see on the daily. It's like, yo, if you live too far, this relationship might actually not work out.
Might have to, might have to chill. Speaking of relationships not being too far, the U.S. got to be looking at that relationship with Canadian oil like, hey, buddy. You know what I'm saying? I think we import already like 4 million barrels from them a day, but they looking like if we go to if anything turns sour with Canada, the U.S. is looking struck.
So what's difficult for us to have to accept when it comes to the oil conversation is realizing that in truth, a sustainable future going forward is one where we're utilizing a fair amount of all of the resources that are available to us. Now, we've mined oil to a point where we've mined and burned it to a point where it's become detrimental to the environment. But to completely cancel it is kind of like saying defund the police, right? It makes sense for solving a particular issue, but when you look on the grander scale of things, it might not necessarily be the answer to it, because petroleum is in everything. Petroleum jelly is almost in everything. The byproduct of oil is in some is it KY or KYC jelly?
I do not want to think about the police being in my petroleum jelly. That is too much. That is petroleum too close. That is, you do not patrol me in that way. That's messed up. I don't know if you meant to do that, but I hear you. It's a long term. There has to be so many things put in place for us to alleviate our reliance upon petroleum, right? And so when we think about solar, when we think about wind energy, when we think about all the alternatives that we have to think about our investment in those and our willingness to speak to that investment through our own pockets and the things that we invest in, right? Not everybody's in the position to buy an electric vehicle, but what are the ways in which that we can speak through our whatever political voice we have towards alleviating this reliance on oil and petroleum.
If anything, the way that the oil prices are moving should indicate how politically tied the world is together. That you can have a war happen in Ukraine, directly impact the price of oil around the world. And then when you take into consideration things like Russia is now selling that oil to India at a discount and selling that oil to China as a discount, who's then putting it back into the market at higher prices, it does then start to get into the place where you're hearing about all the corruption that usually happens and the fat cats getting fed, it speaks a lot more towards what people hate about about the oil and gas industry.
Man. And even if it is, we've spoken already a lot throughout this episode about how overwhelming it is, all of the different things that are going on, all of the different moving parts that affect these issues that affect our pockets, right? Like you brought into so many different areas of geopolitics that are putting pressure on gas prices. We could even go to diplomacy with Iran failing, right? Like we could go to so many different things. To me, it helps to have these conversations and to start to put together a picture of the world that makes sense. There's actually fewer things going on to me in my brain when I understand the connection between the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what's happening with my gas prices than when I just see them as two different separate things. So I appreciate you for kind of helping us make the connection to those today.
For sure. And there's nothing like going to these OPEC meetings. Like I was telling you, brother, the level of mental chess that is being played is very high. It's very high, all the way down to what is being said, what isn't being said. You have folks, giving the whisper on the side and then making decisions on the table. It's quite intriguing and interesting to see. But that is literally how the prices of oil are determined to a large extent.
Yeah, nah, no doubt. They see it coming too. They see the energy transition coming. That's another reason for the squeezing. You know what I'm saying? They saying, hey, they trying to get their bread while they can. You know what I mean? They see this. They couldn't get it during the pandemic, not how they wanted to. Now they see what the future is, and they see, Elon Musk. They must be mad as a mug, boy. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting. It affects the stock market too. Crazy. I know you know a little bit about that.
Definitely impacts stock market. On that point, tis the season for wallet squeezing is my contribution for the episode of the day. Tis
For
the
sure.
season for wallet squeezing.
Yeah, we got an abundance of titles, really. When it's hitting, when it's really clicking, we got an abundance of titles that we stay coming up with, yo.
Definitely, man. That's on that point, as you were saying about the stock prices. There are some interesting things that are happening on the stock prices when it comes to oil futures and the impact on the rest of the energy market. What is happening is that fistfuls of money are definitely being made at the moment at these premiums. The U.S. is about to begin getting into a place where they're producing more oil than they have in the last 2 years, based on what Biden is saying, which is kind of opposite what they came in with regarding green energy. What he calls it is a wartime bridge, to just get over a wartime bridge. But something about exceptions always tend to make a very specific handful of people very wealthy in the US.
Big facts. Big facts. Join us next time to figure out how to get your hands on some of that cash.